Hello and welcome to the British Dapper, and today we're talking about London Question and Answers Part 3. So this is the final set of questions posed by yourselves for myself and Ash Jones to give you our responses to. So I hope you enjoyed the video. So we've just got a few little questions from you, a few more to go through, and we've got Ash from Chap's Guide here, and we're just going to shoot a few questions and just basically mull them over and give you our personal views on them. So one of the ones that I came across was what are your views on tattoos? So it's about tattoos on the face and then the hands, and can you truly be sartorial with those sort of things?
It's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very...
Okay, should I go first?
Yeah.
Okay, so I suppose my instant answer is I don't have any tattoos. So that kind of answers your question. My father never had any tattoos, and my father had been a soldier and in the Merchant Navy, which are traditionally areas where you would find men having tattoos. And perhaps growing up with my father's approach, I avoided tattoos myself. And I've got to 54 and I don't regret not having tattoos, possibly because as we go through life we do change opinions and thoughts. But I'm also highly conscious that tattoos have become much more part of the landscape of the way people adorn themselves with body art. You know, even we were talking earlier, the military, which traditionally used to sort of shy away from tattoos, or certainly visible tattoos, they've adapted to the modern world, and now soldiers are allowed to have tattoos right down their arms, whereas in the past it had to stop at a certain... You couldn't have them on your hands and
That's
things.
right, you couldn't have them on your hands and
neck and things like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get it. My take has been, I have told my son I don't want him to have tattoos until he's much older and he's of an age, you know, maybe even in his 20s, not even in the later teens, where you're legally able to be tattooed. But when you get older, form an impression about the way you want to look before you start doing things which can't be changed. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think? I know you have got tattoos.
Yeah, I have tattoos, yes, but I don't have them visibly, and I would suggest that in this modern culture, a lot of people have hand tattoos and on the necks. It's all part of that the current trend as such, you know, body art, if you like, and. I think in the future it will become more normal to see that, and in a sartorial setting. You do find a lot of fashion houses now will employ models with hand tattoos and body art, if you like, as part of their catwalk shows. So it's insipid. It's going to creep in slowly but surely, but if you're talking about purely from a sartorial point of view, in that the products that we wear and the materials they're made from and that classic style, then you're talking about the clothes and not the person wearing them, potentially.
Yeah.
And I think if you are a person that has had historical tattoos and you want to change the way you look from being very casual to being more sartorial, then I wouldn't hold it against somebody when I see them dressed up in really nice clothes but with tattoos. Everybody has a history, a past, and sometimes that is influenced in the tattoos. I would suggest, though, if you're in a position where you haven't got any, then don't go out and pursue them and get them. If you think it's going to create a cool look, tattoos, they do get heavy over age, they bleed, as in, when I say bleed, I mean the ink's not so sharp, and they do look dated over time. So even if you have tattoos, they are an investment. You do have to have them re-tattooed to keep them looking reasonable. And
Good point. Yeah.
so, yeah, it's one of those things I think it's going to grow as a style.
It's a little bit of a trend, isn't it? You know?
It very much at the moment,
Where
yeah.
it used to be the preserve of sort of working men or military men
Yeah.
or sailors and things like that. In the modern era, I think, I hear that more women are tattooed than men.
Yeah,
All I would say is that my wife doesn't have a tattoo, and I don't necessarily find it attractive,
No.
a visible tattoo in
No.
a woman. I mean, obviously, if people have an intimate tattoo for a particular, reason for themselves, but women who have, tattoos,
Yeah.
overt tattoos, it does detract from the demure nature of
Yeah.
the feminine form, I think. But that's just my somewhat old-fashioned and dated opinion. I know other people who feel very differently. But there we
Yeah.
go.
facial tattoos is an interesting one because I'm very uncomfortable with facial tattoos. I know that it is a modern thing, and you see a lot on TikTok and places like that where young girls will have their name or a name tattooed on their eyebrow or on their face, and that, yeah, while you're 20 years of age and your skin's as tight as a drum, yeah, that's a great look. But 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, and when you're in your 60s and your grandchild is saying, Grandma, what does that say?
Yeah. What's that funny mark around the back of your ear where
Yeah.
your skin has slid down?
Yeah, exactly. So personally, I don't think it's a great look on the face. I still feel in the work environment, if you're trying to aspire to be in management or certainly executive roles, I know there's this culture where we should be judged on our abilities, but I can assure you that you cannot detract from the fact if you have tattoos, people will make assumptions about you, no matter how well you dress.
Yeah.
So it is, if you're going for example, if you want to be a lawyer and you then want to become a barrister,
Yeah.
these sort of things are, something you really have to take into serious consideration if you're going to have a tattoo.
Definitely. You're not going to get the job of Pope if you're heavily tattooed, I
No.
would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you share how your personal sartorial style has evolved over the years?
Yeah, I'll go with that one. So my style is influenced by a number of things. Obviously my father, who's in his 90s now. I remember growing up, my father would put a tie on to leave the house to go to the supermarket, as was the way of men of that generation. So I always associated the sort of male presentation of being a smart man, wearing things like a tie. Then I joined the military. So I was in the Air Cadets as a young boy, so from a very early age we were taught the value of having shiny shoes and creases in our trousers. Then I joined the military, and of course your uniform is part of your tools of the trade. It's part of the sort of aesthetic and the practicality. So I took on board things like appreciating my clothing, making sure my shoes are shiny. It's not just about the shine, it's about protecting the leather and things like that. And as that has evolved, I guess I've just continued down that path. I mean, I don't dress sartorially all of the time, obviously not. I'm a practical, ordinary person. But for me, if I'm out to make an impression, for me, an impression means a tie. It does mean a jacket. It does mean a pair of shoes with a shine on them. So for me, my evolutionary journey as a well-dressed, an intentionally well-dressed man, as I call it, it would be somewhat conservative in approach. How would you say, Chris?
Yeah, I'd go along with the same sort of thing, really. I mean, I have a military background as well. So, and former influences, my grandfather, my father, if they went out on a Friday night, then it would be blazer, tie, polished shoes, flannels ironed. That was just the era that I grew up in, and my grandfather would wear a hat. And so, although in my youth, a lot of the time when we weren't wearing a uniform, which was expected that your shoes would be bulled, your boots would be bulled, your trousers would be pressed. We even used to use soap on the inside of the trousers to get that so the crease would stick on the inside to give you that sharper look. All those little things would come into play, you know, and you brush your clothes, make sure there was no lint or anything on them. And it was, you know, that was part of that environment. And it still comes to now, you know, I still like to make sure if there's a bit of lint on me, it bugs me. So I have to brush it off, and I have to wear a tie to really, if I'm, like you said, if I'm trying to impress or create a certain image or carry myself off in a certain manner, then I do like to wear a tie. I do like to wear a pressed shirt. I like a shine on my shoes, certainly a bull toe cap. You know, that look is me. It's all ingrained in me over all those years. I do wear casual stuff from time to time, as do everybody, but I don't run around in jeans and T-shirts, and I don't wear trainers or running shoes unless I'm doing something like that as an activity.
Yeah.
So, you know, I try and temper it. I try and look conservative, even in a casual manner.
No.
Something we did touch on earlier this morning in a way, and it's ethical fashion. How do you navigate the balance between being stylish and being ethical and sustainable?
That's a good one. And I guess it's never been more relevant than today, in the world we live today, because we live in a fast fashion world, don't we? Where fleeting trends seem to be what young people pursue, rather than thinking about buying an item which will last you for 10 years.
Yeah.
People have a mindset when they buy an item, it's probably only going to last one season. And let's be honest, it ends up either in the bottom of a wardrobe or in the bottom of a landfill site. So how I approach it, or have come to approach it, when I was younger and I didn't have any money, I had to make decisions based on my wallet. All right, so I would buy polyester ties. I would buy inexpensive shoes with, which were cemented together, not stitched together, so they couldn't be fixed, because that's all I could afford. As I've got older, I appreciate that if I spend a little more money, now I've got a bit more financial stability, or you can use eBay or whatever route you take to reduce these items into your possession. But buying maybe a pair of shoes which are Goodyear welted, well, yes, it also means they're better looking and they're going to feel better on your feet, but it means they can be repaired. So you're not buying a shoe which, once the sole parts from the upper, you have to throw them away because they can't be fixed. So ethics for me begins with thinking about the sustainability of the items I'm buying. If I can afford it, I'll buy things which are repairable. And I will also, very much more recently, I'll make decisions based on where the products are made. I will endeavour to buy things which are made in my own country for two reasons. One, I want to support my own country's economy. But secondly, I know of the ethics in this country. So if somebody's working in a shoe factory in the UK, I know they'll be paid well. Their working conditions will be supervised by a government which is, ethic towards people. Whereas if I buy them from another part of the world, I can't swear by that. I can't say that the people are paid well and they are treated well. So I do have these things in the back of my mind, but only this stage of my life. When I was younger, it was all about how much can I afford.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I think disposable income is a major contributor, really. But I think a lot of brands now, they don't want longevity in an item. They want you to go back and buy something every 6 months. So Marks and Spencer's springs to mind. In the 70s, I mean, you could buy a jumper that was 100% wool. It would last you 10, 15 years. But they never had anybody coming back to the store for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
So they learn a valuable lesson, as in, if it wears for a reasonable amount of time, maybe 1 or 2 years, they're getting you back in, the footfall increases because you need to get that item replaced.
Yeah.
I think it's gone a little bit too far now. I bought something from Marks and Spencer's not long ago, and it was an ill-informed choice, I would say, because it was 65% wool and it was acrylic mix. And I thought, well, it'll do for now. And I did pay the price for that because it bobbled up all over the place, and within about 2 or 3 months worth of wear, quite regular wear to be fair, but I realised it was a ill-informed decision. I really should have gone for something that was 100% wool or cashmere and bit the bullet and spent a lot more money on it, because it would still be now available to me, whereas this jumper, whilst I can still wear it, it's an embarrassment to wear because it just keeps bobbling up all the time.
It's a gardening jumper now, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
No, I think you're right, Chris. I mean, particularly when it comes to knitwear, for me, it took me a long time to learn the value of wool. I was an acrylic guy, and because it's cheap, and let's be honest, acrylic is just another word for plastic. It's fibres of plastic, and I was fed up of picking fluff off. You know, if you wear a sort of acrylic scarf, which are very common these days, you spend your life picking fluff off things. Then you buy something which is wool, and you get something which performs better, doesn't leave fluff everywhere, and is going to last so much longer. So, of course, you have the pain of having to pay initially more money, but in the long run, it's a winner all over, I think. So, and that's an ethical choice as well, because you're buying something which is easily available from the natural world. Nothing has to die to make that. You know, it's a really good choice.
I think we're talking about suits and jackets. Then I do go from natural fibres over man-made fibres, and I'd always promote that. I mean, I do accept if you're limited in finance, then maybe you're going to buy something that might be a polyester tie from time to time. I'm not saying don't do that, but I would say try and avoid it, really. Ironically, a lot of really fashionable ties and really what look like initially lovely pattern ties, you turn them over and it's polyester. So it's one of those awkward situations, but I would always try and get silk. And like we said with eBay and places like that, you can buy, I mean, I use eBay a lot of the time because of the ethics behind it in a way. It's the sustainability. Rather than buy new, I can buy second hand. It's recycling that the previous owner's clothing. It's perfectly good for my purposes, and it, you know, rather than it going in a landfill, I'm making good use of that. And potentially I have bought ties and shirts and I've only worn them for 1 or 2 times, and I thought, well, I don't need them anymore, so I stick them on eBay and somebody else gets the benefit of them, or I'll drop them in a charity shop. So it's, you know, from that point of view, I think it is a way of giving back and not generating new clothes being built or made or manufactured all the time.
So I mean, the tie I'm wearing now, this I bought from eBay. I remember this one. I would have paid well under £10 for it. I've never paid more than £5 for a tie. This is from Dedge and Skinner, number 10 Savile Row. Holds 3 Royal Warrants, and this tie would have probably been a couple of £100. This is the beauty of eBay. You know, you do not have to settle for substandard polyester, because you can get the very best ties in the world at a very affordable price point. The same as a polyester tie brand new. And yet, you know, a tie doesn't wear, does it? You know, it doesn't sort of go threadbare. You know, you don't wear them sort of out as such. So think carefully. You know, you don't have to compromise on certain things.
Funny you should mention about a tie. I bought a tie on eBay literally, I don't know, about 2 weeks ago. And the images, I got caught out with it basically, but the images came back and I thought, oh, it's a lovely tie. And I got the tie through Charles Thwaite, lovely tie, and it just a little bit grubby, where somebody obviously had a grubby hand over time. But it was easily resolved. I got literally a little cleaning pad, special cleaning for silk ties. Just give it a rub with that, disappeared completely like it was a new tie. So even if you get little marks like that, sometimes a stain remover, special stain removers, that you can rejuvenate a tie. So, and it's not expensive.
No, and you can pass them on. I mean,
Yeah.
tie's a tie, isn't it? You know, this tie might be 50 years old. Doesn't make any difference to me.
No.
You know, so think like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So this one is related to cultural diversity.
Ooh.
Okay. So how do you incorporate diverse elements into your style? Now, this is, I believe, more of if you're African or Afro-Caribbean and you want to introduce typically the national dress maybe into your sartorial look, how would you go about it? So this is something that's quite new to me because I haven't really explored that in any sense.
No. I mean, being traditional, I guess. I mean, I'm Welsh. So we do have sort of a national dress for women, but not really for men. But my initial thought would be think of the accessories. So the tie, the pocket square, cufflinks, items like that, which allow you to flavour the outfit.
Yeah.
So you still retain the timeless elegance of an intentionally well-dressed man, but just by adding maybe an artistic tie if you are from a culture where that's relevant. Like I'm thinking Aboriginal Australian, something like that. Or, as you say, Jamaican, the colours which are very highly associated with that country, you can incorporate it into your outfit. So you retain your elegance, but you're very clearly identifying your cultural background.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same. I think if you were talking about subtlety, then it is maybe using the colour of your national flag, for example, in your tie or in your pocket square or
even a lapel badge.
Lapel badge.
You see people with a little national flag there.
Yeah.
That might be all you need.
Yeah. I can't really think much else I know certain African countries, they will have a traditional dress where they can't wear a suit, or they wouldn't be able to wear a suit because they might have a kaftan or some sort of that sort of effect. That might be a more traditional sense. But then I would say that if you're living in that country, you're living in that environment, then it's typically. But I like diversity, as in I like to see people wear national dress. Even in this country, we see Afro-Caribbeans,
Scotsmen
wearing a kilt. So I do like to see that sort of diversity. Indian and Pakistani people wearing their national dress. It's all part of life's rich tapestry, really.
I think there's definitely a place for it.
Yes.
I think it makes the outfit or one's sort of presentation to the world much more interesting.
Yeah.
If everybody else is wearing a suit and you're wearing your national identifying dress, I think it's the way to go. No problem with that.
Yeah. So the final one. So how does the history of fashion and clothing styles influence contemporary sartorial choices?
The history of fashion styles. Well, I think we're all a product of what's gone before, haven't we? And if we look at the way our clothing is made up even today, I mean, neckties stem back to the 30 Years' War, where the Croats and the French and all that sort of thing. So history is present in everything we wear, really, to a degree. It depends on how you wish to adopt and adapt it into your personal style. I mean, things constantly change. And if you look back at images, I think the best style to pursue is a style which is likely to last a long time.
Yeah.
So if you look at an image of Cary Grant in the 1950s, he would, the famous suit he used to wear in that film he made, it'll be a two-piece, mid-grey suit, notch lapel, 2 buttons or whatever. It's classically cut. He wore that suit in the 1950s. We could wear that suit in the 2050s, because even though 100 years have passed, that suit remains relevant. So when it comes to fashion, you've got to be a little careful, the history side of things. But if you pin your sort of colours to the right period of fashion, it's something that can last you a lifetime, I think.
Yeah. I think when it comes to fashion and classic look, style or traditional, then I would say fashion is fleeting. It's here, 6 months later it's gone. Classic or traditional it does evolve, it does change, but it's more glacial. It's a very slow erosion and change and adaptation. So a lot of these if you like, spikes of interest or diversity, if you like, they get flattened out over time. They're eroded down to basically you're middle of the field all the time. You're not really in fashion, you're not out of fashion. And I think if you look at ties, for example, the width of a tie changes. It does go from very slim ties to very thick ties. And so it does depend on your look and what you're trying to create. Depends what style you go for. So I tend to like 4-inch blade ties, maybe 3.5, whereas somebody else might like to wear skinny ties because it goes with the mod look that they like, or different style, or so. But I would say if you want to stay contemporary or classic, then you can just stay in that middle ground. You don't have to buy a new suit because it's gone out of fashion because they're too slim on the lapels, you know, or they're too big. So yeah, if you find that middle ground, you'll never really go out of fashion because you're never really in or out of it, if you know what I mean. It's just...
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
So if you're never in fashion, you're never going to go out of fashion.
Yeah. Well, that's it, yeah. So that's the last question.
There we go, folks. Well, thank you for joining us again.
We hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give us a thumbs up. If you'd like to subscribe, then please feel free to do so. We also have a Buy Me a Coffee page, and I'll put the link down below so you can make your contribution to the channel. We also enjoy questions and answers, so if you'd like to sport one on the comments below, then we'll try and get back to you straight away. But I would say some of the questions might be relevant for a future opportunity, and so I will then mention it or acknowledge the question and explain that we might want to use that in the future. So until next time, take care.